Hey guys, what's up? KillJoy Jake here, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. Today we are going to be pitting the original Evil Dead from 1981 up against its kind of remake from 2013. I'm gonna tell you right now, this is gonna be a very close match. But before I get into it, I'm gonna need you guys to like this video and subscribe for more horror content. Alright, now let's get into it. Get over here! Before I pit these films against each other, let's talk a little bit about them. The Evil Dead, originally released as Book of the Dead, is a 1981 American supernatural horror film written and directed by Sam Raimi. The film is essentially about 5 college students vacationing in an isolated cabin in a remote wooded area. They find an audio tape that turn into demons. You know this story by now. The film notably stars Bruce Campbell, who would later become a gigantic horror icon, playing his character Ash Williams. Although he really wouldn't become Ash Williams until the second film. But we'll get more into that later. The budget of $400,000 was raised almost completely by the family of the people involved. Which it's not a small loan of $1 million, but it's still $400,000. Holy crap. But the biggest thing to make this film such a success was of course Stephen King famously endorsing the film, raving about it in his review. King called it the most ferociously original horror film of 1982. And if you're confused by that because it is a 1981 movie, the film didn't actually get super popular until that year when it was entered into the Cannes International Film Festival. Cannes? I don't know how to pronounce it, I don't speak French. The film was so popular it went on to make 2 pretty interesting and wildly different sequels, as well as a 2013 remake. Oh, and also that epic TV show that got cancelled way too early. But the Evil Dead Remake is a 2013 American supernatural horror film directed by Fede Alvarez. Written by Rodo, something that starts with an S that is too hard for me to pronounce. Also, if these names are sounding familiar to you, that's because I just talked about Don't Breathe 2. Fede Alvarez would go on to direct the first Don't Breathe. And Rodo, once again, I'm not gonna try and pronounce that last name, is directing the sequel that comes out sometime next year. Pretty exciting stuff. Now, unlike a lot of other remakes in the horror world, this 2013 film does a lot of new things, and isn't just trying to redo everything that happened in the original film. A strong positive that we're going to get to soon. Speaking of positives, let's get into the good. For the original Evil Dead, I would say it is absolutely horrifying. Deadites with the white eyes, the singing, "We're gonna get you," the sister in the cellar. Sister in the Cellar, that sounds like an awesome metal band name. Do not even think about using that, I already have it copywritten. I don't. And then the ominous chants from the forest, "Join us. Join us." I love it. There's so much to love about this film. It's so horrifying and gross and disgusting and schlocky as all hell. I love The Evil Dead, so good. Bruce Campbell is an absolute force to be reckoned with. Not only does this man do all of his own stunts, he also gives a physical performance of a lifetime, which I can't believe I'm saying this, is actually topped in the second film. But the man deserves some kind of award for his performance in this first film as well. He actually, in real life, sprained his ankle at the beginning of this shoot, and Sam Raimi still wanted him to do all this physical acting in this film. There were times where Raimi would take a pencil and poke at his sprained ankle, just like that one stab scene in this movie. Is Sam Raimi a or was he just doing all of this to incite more terror in his actors? That's up to you to decide. The cinematography is what makes this film so incredible. The crazy running through the forest shot is what makes this schlocky, just kind of okay college film look so professional. There's so many shots I could talk about in this movie. That one downward sweeping shot where you just see the top of Bruce Campbell's head and you get those beams that make those cool sound effects. Very reminiscent of The Shining that only came out a year before this. Raimi's filming style is so iconic and is unmatched by any other horror director. This is a huge plus in my book. And I just respect and love low-budget horror films. I love hearing underdog stories like this, where a film like this that came from nothing makes it to the very top of the charts. And you had a lot of competition in 1981. It was one of the biggest years for horror films maybe ever. So no matter who you are, you don't have to be in Hollywood to make an epic horror film that's gonna get a lot of popularity. Just come up with a crazy new creative idea. It's not easy, but you can do it. Sam Raimi is living proof of that. Moving on to the Evil Dead sort of remake from 2013, the practical effects in this film definitely have the edge on the original. Now there is a little bit of digital in here, but it's always mixed with practical effect. And that's okay as long as you're not just completely relying on a CGI monster running around to chase people to incite terror. That's an opt-out easy way to do it, and I don't like it, Hollywood. Hollywood. None of us do. So that's why I kind of gotta give the 2013 Evil Dead the edge on that. Especially when you have those kind of crappy stop motion shots in the original film towards the end. It just doesn't look good. And everything in this 2013 film looks great. It is so gory and disgusting. I absolutely love some of the effects in this movie. Actually does something different for once. Whoa, a remake that does something different than its original predecessor? I haven't seen one of these in years. Actually, I literally just talked about Suspiria. Now, although the Suspiria remake is different, it's not good. This film, though, is. I really like how this story is totally different than the original. Sure, it is 5 college students going to a remote cabin in the woods and they get possessed by demons, blah, blah, blah. But they have a totally new reason for wanting to go there. Mia's character is addicted to heroin and they're trying to wean her off that, so they're thinking, hey, if we hang out at this cabin for like a month or so, we can help her get back on track. Sure, I'll take it. That's awesome. It's a different story. That's enough. That's enough for me to buy into it. Jane Levy freaking sells it in this movie, too. As someone who has actually seen addiction firsthand, I can tell you that this is a pretty good portrayal of it. This film is so freaking scary. This movie scared the absolute pee out of tween-age Jake. But I remember when this film was coming out and I was thinking, there's no way they're gonna be able to top that original. This might be blasphemy, but I think they might have made a scarier movie. And before you start writing angry comments, I know that's insanely arguable. I'm not denying that. Both of these films are absolute top-notch horror. This might also be blasphemy, but I think this movie has the absolute best kills of the series. You got some crazy David Cronenberg level body horror. We're cutting off our arms, we are slicing our faces open in this movie, and we're taking a hammer right into the middle of the hand there. Oh my god, that scene makes me cringe every time. Just thinking about it, I get the chills. I get the willies. Now, as much as I absolutely worship these films, we do gotta move into the bad. So there's the tree scene, the original Evil Dead, that we gotta talk about. I have some very, very mixed feelings about this scene, and not all bad. Obviously, it's that kind of scene that I don't want to say this word on YouTube because I don't want to get demonetized. Not only is that a thing that I don't really want to see in my fun, crazy, schlocky horror film, it doesn't really fit the tone of this movie. I feel like just getting attacked by the woods would have been good enough, but then you had the poke scene, if you know what I'm saying. If you would have just taken that one scene out, I think this whole scene would have worked, but it's because of that it gets a little too ridiculous. The effects don't always look great. The big thing I'm talking about here is the stop motion at the ending. It just doesn't look good. Also, Shelly's character looks one way when she falls into the cellar, and then literally a shot later, she has the crazy gray makeup on and totally looks different. So there's some inconsistencies there. That's just a little nitpicky thing, but like I've said in the past, when a horror film is absolutely S tier, I judge it a little harder than other movies. I see that as totally fair. Maybe you don't. Whatever, this is my show. Also, Ash isn't fully developed like he is in the second movie. Now, although his performance is fantastic in this first movie, he doesn't have the comedic element or the one-liners that he does in the second film, which I know all of you love. And like I said, his physical performance is easily topped in that second movie, which my one diss for the second movie is it's basically just a remake of the first film, doing almost the exact same shots from the original, but in my opinion, a little better. Moving on to the Evil Dead from 2013, it literally does the exact same tree scene again. Dude, did you hear what I just said? Also, did I mention that Sam Raimi super regrets putting that scene into the original film? It's crazy to me that they made a remake of his movie and he wasn't like, hey, can you not put the tree scene in there? But I guess one of the producers, who's left unnamed to this day, insisted that the tree scene should be in this new film. And in the remake, it feels even more out of place than the original, especially because you have that entity in the woods that's just kind of staring at her the whole time. It doesn't work for me at all. It's the biggest down point of this whole remake, and honestly, if it would have been left out, it would have easily won this competition. Okay, easily was a strong word. This is a very close one, let me tell you. Also, once again, just being a little nitpicky here, Natalie's character almost serves nothing to the plot. I honestly forgot her character was there until she sawed off her arm. That was literally her only purpose in this whole film, was for that one scene. That's it. She had nothing to do with the plot, she was just kind of vibing. Am I being nitpicky? Totally. So am I giving out the ugly award? Heck no! Both of these films are unbelievably exceptional, top of the list for me, and some of my favorite horror films of all time. Even though I didn't put them on my top 10 horror films, because I don't know, I just don't end up watching these movies too much, they're still some of my absolute favorites. But who's gonna win this thing? I'm gonna give it to the remake. Okay, now before you unsubscribe and stop watching this video, let me plead my case. The original film is absolutely fantastic. It does so much with a low budget. But could you imagine what that film would have done if it had a budget? I think this 2013 remake perfectly shows what they could have done if they had a crazy budget. And in some ways, does it better. The main reason I'm doing this series is honestly to say that remakes aren't always bad. I like having remakes. Look at John Carpenter's The Thing. That's kind of a remake. I mean, it's just another movie based off of the same source material, but it's also kind of a remake of that 1950s movie. And it does it way better. So I'm a big supporter of remakes. If you see a way that you can do something better, go for it. And the big deciding factor to me was the effects. Everything looks better in this new movie. And the kills are insane and so bloody and gory. It captures that same tone that the original film does so well, and then actually has a high budget to do a bunch of crazy blood sprays and it's raining blood at one point, and it also adds this body horror element to it that the original film didn't have. There's so many good things about this 2013 remake, I have to give it to it. It's also probably one of my favorite remakes of all time, if you're not counting John Carpenter's The Thing as an actual remake, because that's very arguable to say that it is a remake or not. Now I know a lot of you totally disagree with this because the 1981 movie is a total classic, and only time will tell if this 2013 movie is going to be a classic or not. But what do you guys think about this ranking? Are you hovering over that unsubscribe button right now? Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching my remake versus original on The Evil Dead. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more horror content. Or dislike it. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at KillJoyJake1 and on Instagram at KillJoy_Jake. I just hit 1,000 followers on Twitter, so big ol' thanks for that. And as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.